Hi, if you saw the Ultimate Beginner Series Volume 1, you know my name is Ed Kaye, and we've learned a lot of things. We learned how to open our case. We learned how to put our instrument together. We learned how to put our reed on and tighten our ligature. We learned the correct posture for playing the saxophone, both standing and sitting, and how we rest our shoulders. We learned how to make an embouchure and how to produce a tone with just a mouthpiece, and also how to produce a tone with just a saxophone. We learned how to maintain our instrument and take care of it. We learned how to put it away. And most importantly, we learned the first three notes: B, A, and G. Now in Volume 2, we're going to learn the next 5 notes, and we're going to learn important techniques for playing the saxophone. So in the first volume, we learned these 3 notes: B, A, and G. Now we're ready to learn our next 5 notes. The next note is C. It is played with the middle finger of your left hand. So that's the only key that we will press down, and sounds like this. The next note is D. We're going up the scale. That's this note right here. D involves all of our fingers. Anyway, the first 3 of the left hand, first 3 of the right hand, and our thumb. We're going to press down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of these keys, plus the octave key with our thumb. This is where that thumb position comes into play. We're just going to push that down, and that should give us D. So it's all 6 fingers plus the octave key. Now it gets easier. Next note is E, right here. E is like D, except we just lift up the 3rd finger on the right hand. So now we have 3 in the left, the octave key, and the first 2 fingers in the right hand. The next note is F sharp. On this chart you will see a F. Our sharp is indicated by looks like a tic-tac-toe sign. F sharp is a half step higher than F, and we need it to make our G major scale. F sharp is like G with the octave key, but with the middle finger in the right hand. So you are holding down the G in the left hand, the octave key is depressed, and you will press down the middle finger in your right hand. It sounds like this. The last note is G. The saxophone has one very convenient feature. If you learn the fingerings in one octave, they're going to be the same, or pretty much the same, for most of the notes in the next octave, just by pressing the octave key. We already know G. It's the first 3 fingers on the left hand. So what we do is hold down the first 3 fingers on the left hand, add the octave key. If I let the octave key go, I get our first G. That's this G. I press down the octave key, I get this G. Now we can play the scale going up and going down.
Hello! If you saw the first video, you know that my name is Tom Proctor and I'm the theory guy. We learned a lot of the basics of music in the first video, and now we're going to learn a few things that are more advanced. We're going to start off with some more advanced notes. Now in the first video we learned about whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and eighth notes, as well as the corresponding rests. Now we have notes that include a dot. Now what the dot means is you add half the value of the note that precedes it to the length of the note. So if this is a half note and it would get 2 beats, the dot means you add half the value. So half the value of 2 beats is 1 beat. So 2 beats and 1 beat is 3 beats. So the dotted half note would get 3 beats in a 4/4 meter. In the quarter note, the dot adds half the value. So in 4/4, if the quarter note gets 1 beat, that means the dot equals a half a beat. So the dotted quarter note would be 1.5 beats. On the eighth note is the same thing. The dot adds half the value of the note that precedes it. So if the eighth note in 4/4 time gets a half a beat, the dot is a quarter of a beat. So that would be a half and a quarter, or 3/4 of a beat. The 16th note has 2 flags, whereas the 8th note had 1 flag. The 16th note has 2 flags. And this gets half the value of what an 8th note is. The same thing with the 16th rest. As with the 8th note, we can combine groups of 16th notes together with beams. Now in the 8th notes, we had 1 beam. In the 16th note, since we have 2 flags, we combine them with 2 beams. So here are some various configurations that you'll come upon in music of 16th notes. 8th plus 2 16ths, 2 16ths plus an 8th. Now, a kind of a rest that you'll be coming upon in music is called an extended rest. Instead of showing 4 measures each with a rest, this extended rest will have a number at the top, and it'll tell you how many measures will be in this extended rest. It could be any number, all the way from 2 to 100, or even more. But whatever it does, this shows you how many measures that you have to count in a rest. If this were in 4/4 time, this would be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's how you count an extended rest. Now let's go to something called articulation. When the first video they were teaching about tonguing, and in this second video teaching more about tonguing, there are various ways that you can tongue. The music in the theory will show you how you should tongue it. If you have a note with a dot above the head or below the head, it's called a staccato. That means it is short or detached. So instead of a quarter note being ta, this with a staccato would be ta. If you have this little symbol here, this is called an accent. That means to give it some emphasis, but not make it shorter. So instead of ta, with the accent, it'd be ta. This kind of an accent we sometimes call a housetop accent. And it's either on top of the note head or under the note head. This one means that it's accented and a little shorter. Especially in jazz music, you'll see this. Instead of ta, this would be ta. With this note, this is called a tenuto mark. The tenuto mark means to play the note the full length, and sometimes just give a little emphasis, not an accent, but just a little emphasis. So where a regular quarter note would be ta, with the tenuto mark it would be ta. Now here is a term that may come up that will mean the style of playing articulations throughout that section of music. It's marcato. Marcato means to play marked and detached. So instead of quarter notes being ta, 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 the quarter notes would be ta, 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 ta. Legato means to play very smoothly in style. So if quarter notes are ta, 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 the legato quarter notes would be ta, 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 ta. Those are some of the articulations that you may come upon. Another thing you will encounter in music theory, one is called the tie. You've probably seen these lines in music. A tie ties together the two notes. So if we have a quarter note and a quarter note tied together, it adds together the beats or the count of those two notes. So if one quarter note gets a beat and this quarter note gets a beat, tie them together, that pitch is played for 2 beats. Now, a slur ties together 2 notes from different pitches. As you see, a tie, the notes are always of the same pitch. On a slur, that means that these 2 notes, playing from one to the next one, that the second note will not be tongued. So instead of ta, ta, this would be ta. So the slur means to not tongue the second note. Now, as well as the high and the low, and the fast and the slow, we also have the loud and the soft. Now, in this chart, it shows some of the what we call dynamics. This is what makes music dynamic. It makes it much more interesting, playing dynamics. These are some of the symbols that you'll see in music. This is one of the softer ones you will see. These 2 P's mean pianissimo. Pianissimo is very soft. A little louder is piano. Piano just means soft. MP means mezzo piano. That's mezzo meaning medium. So mezzo piano is medium soft. A little bit louder, which is probably, if you play your instrument just normally at ease, that will probably be your mezzo forte. Mezzo forte, medium loud or medium strong. A little stronger is forte. That gives a little bit more of sound, so a forte sound. And the 2 F's are fortissimo, which makes it very loud. So you can go from very soft to very loud. Now, those other ones were what you would play for sections of music at a time. But sometimes within the section, there may be some different kinds of dynamics that the composer will want. So the composer will give you some of these terms. This is called a sforzando. And this is a sudden accent. So if you were playing a quarter note ta, the sforzando would be ta. A forte piano means that the composer wants you to play loud and immediately soft. So a regular half note would be ta, and a forte piano would be ta. Forte to piano, loud to immediately soft. These other symbols have to do with gradual changes in dynamics. Diminuendo means to get gradually softer. So you'll either see diminuendo, or here it's abbreviated dim, or you'll see this symbol here, which is a diminuendo or a decrescendo symbol. That means to get gradually softer. Opposite of that is crescendo, or this symbol here. As you can see, it gets bigger at the end. So crescendo means to get gradually louder. These are some of the dynamic markings that you'll be seeing in music. Now in Volume 1, we talked about the road map in music, and we're talking a little bit more detailed in road map in this one. Various times in music that you'll see these indications. Quickly, DC means da capo, which means go back to the beginning. Or if you wear a cap, means head. Da capo means go to the top. Go back to the beginning. Sometimes there is an ending that the composer wants a little different from your normal ending, so we'll tag on a special ending. This symbol here, which is the coda symbol, will show you when to go to that special ending. DS means dal segno, which is this sign here. Segno meaning sign. This will mean for you to go back to a special place in the music that the composer indicates at the sign and continue from that point. And then when you're finally finished, you have the fine. Now, as in dynamics, we have various levels of dynamics. We also have various levels of tempos, or the speed of the music. And quickly we'll go through some of the terms. There are many more terms, but these are some of the most common ones you'll find. Adagio is a very slow tempo. A little faster is andante, which is a leisurely walking kind of tempo. Andantino is just a little bit walking speed, whereas moderato is a medium speed. Allegretto is a little bit fast. Allegro is fast. Vivace is very fast. And presto is extremely fast. So you have all the way from presto to adagio, from fast to the slow tempos. Just as in dynamics, that we had specific dynamics and then we had variations in dynamics, we also have the same thing in tempos. Now I showed you some of the specific tempos that you would play, those tempos in sections of music. Now here are some of the variations to the tempos. First we have the fermata, sometimes called the bird's eye. The fermata over note means to hold that note longer than the regular length of the note. Usually you would hold it until the conductor tells you to stop playing that note. Accelerando, where we have the abbreviation here, accelerando means to gradually get faster, whereas allargando means to gradually get slower. And allargando usually also means to lengthen the notes as well as the tempo. Ritardando, which here is the abbreviation for ritardando, means to gradually get slower. And rallentando is a very similar term, meaning to get slower. And when any of these terms are used, many times afterwards, it means we have a tempo, which after the retard or the rallentando, then the a tempo means to go back to the tempo that you were just at. Now you've learned a lot about music theory as in the Volume 1 as well as the Volume 2, and a lot of advanced things about music theory in Volume 2. Now I think you're ready to go back and learn some really interesting things about your instrument.
Another very important part about playing the saxophone is tonguing, articulation, whatever you want to call it. But when we speak, our tongue does many things in order to produce different sounds. It's the same way with the saxophone. If we don't use our tongue, we get one type of sound all the time. That's what we call slurring, not using our tongue at all. Well, there are many times, many instances where we need to use our tongue, and our tongue will do different things. It will either play long notes or short notes. Most importantly, our tongue is what we use every time we start a sound. The tongue is like a valve. It works very much the way the water faucet works. The air that you have taken in is being held, and you're going to be pushing it out. When the tongue is up against the reed, which is its normal position before we start, and I'll do it with my finger first, we'll go like this. If I blow and my tongue is against the reed, no air will come out. It will be something like this. When I let the tongue back, the air will rush out, and therefore I will start a tone. It will be. You can do that. You can just practice by putting your lips together and putting your tongue in between and pushing air out. First block it. Take a breath, Push the air, but don't let it come out. Let your tongue block it. When you release your tongue, the air comes out. That's what we do when we attack. And we say ta or tu or ti to let it go. That we can either say that if we want kind of a sharp or a hard tongue. We can say da or do or di when we play in order to get a softer tongue. Right now I will say da with the saxophone and I'll demonstrate. I'll take a breath, push the air out. My tongue will be up against the reed this way. And so therefore no sound will come out like this. When I let it go, the sound will start. If I put the tongue back on the reed, it stops. Now if I say ti or ta, then the notes will be a sharper attack, and I can get my tongue to move faster, therefore make it possible for me to tongue faster. You notice that the sound changed. Now the notes are longer. I'm saying da, 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 da. So if I want a longer tongue, I will say da, 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 da repeatedly. Those are examples of tonguing. Da, 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 da. What you do is just take the scale and start with each note and say ta, 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 da, 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 da. And practice that all up and down the instrument. You need to be able to slur, which is no tongue, or to tongue, so that when we play music, we have the ability to play long notes and short notes, notes with accents, notes without accents. So if I'm playing a melody, or if I'm improvising, or whatever it is, I have the ability to change the sound. It's also very important to always keep pushing the air. You're always pushing forward. You don't try to breathe into the instrument, you try to breathe all the way through the instrument. You pick a point in space and you aim your air column at that point. It's not about seeing how loud you can play, it's just about playing with a sustained air column all the time. If you don't do that, what will happen is that notes in different registers will not come out, you won't be able to tongue, you'll be out of tune, blah, blah, blah. Lots of problems that we can solve just by simply supporting the air. I'll give you an example of support and non-support. First, the non-support. My notes crack and they don't come out. If I support, no matter how loud or soft I play, I'm still getting a nice round sound, and all the register sound, the low ones, the high ones, everything comes out. My tongue works very easily. That valve works a lot easier when there's air going through it. The last thing that I want to talk about is vibrato. You go to church and you hear a great singer, and they make your hair on your arm stand up, and you don't really know why, aside from the fact that they have a God-given gift and they have talent and they've worked hard. One of the things that's very important is vibrato. And that's when the tone varies. I'm going to demonstrate it by just singing a note. If I sing, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Now I'm not a singer, so pardon me. But I'm just doing that as an example. If I go, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. That shaking in the voice we call vibrato. Well, on the saxophone, the vibrato is all about the color of the sound, the emotion, and it's something that sounds very abstract, and yet it's very simple and almost very mechanical to do. But I'm going to give you an example. hear all those notes moving? Well, there are two kinds of vibrato. There's one that we do with our jaw. There's one that we do with our stomach, with our diaphragm. They're very simple to practice. First, let me show you the one with our jaw. I'm going to loosen and tighten back up my lip so that the sound actually will get a little flat and then back. That's what vibrato is. We're just making the note move in pitch, but we're always back to the center. So I'm going to do it first slowly, and I'm going to speed it up. If you've had a little bit of a theory lesson, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the meter. I'm going to start out with quarter notes at this tempo. So it'll be one note per time, or one vibrato. Then I'm going to change it to eighth notes, so there's two of them. Then triplets, three of them. And then you'll hear four of them. Boy, this is harder than talking and chewing gum at the same time. So first I'm going to start with I'm going to play a B, for example. I hope you heard that. Should have been very clear. At the end, I just held the note out. Now, once I learn how to measure that way, I can make the vibrato be any speed. And vibrato isn't always the same speed. For example, if I'm playing the end of a phrase, not only did the note get softer, but at first it just held by itself, and then it moved until it moved faster and then stopped moving again. That's what vibrato is. I did that all with my lip. Now I do the same thing with my diaphragm. I am going to push air with my diaphragm using the same technique. I'm going to start with quarter notes, and I'm going to then go to two of them, so eighth notes, and three triplets, four 16th notes. You have to really breathe because you're pushing more air this way. So let's see, I'll pick a note. How about A? Now you have the option. I find that for me, if it's a very emotional piece or something very romantic or dramatic, I happen to like the diaphragm vibrato. I think it makes it sound warmer. It's more, your whole body is in that. So there's something about that that's warmer and richer. If I want a faster, kind of more soulful, or if I'm playing something fast and I just need a little vibrato, I can get away with it with my lip. I can also mix and match. Before you start playing, it's very important to start to warm up. Warming up just basically means just that. Taking a breath, making sure you're standing nice and tall, making sure your shoulders are relaxed. Forget about all the stuff that you had during the day. Now, if you have a headache, or if you had a bad day at school or at work or whatever it is, just forget about that stuff. Now it's time to make music, to have some fun. So take a couple deep breaths, make sure you're nice and relaxed and you're stretched out. Hold the saxophone the right way, and I like to do a lot of different things to warm up, but probably the simplest is just to play a couple of scales slowly and try to get a little more air through the instrument and a little bigger sound as I go along. I usually try to start in the middle register and work my way up and then down, and then up and then down. So you can see I just play random notes, and I try to go down low, and I try to go up high. A good exercise for warming up, for example, is playing a chromatic scale in major thirds. We haven't gotten that far yet, but as you go along, you'll find, or just going up and down the scale this way. might start on the G above the staff and go G, F sharp, G, E, G, D, G, C, down that way. I always notice the breathing. I'll practice a little vibrato. I'll just sort of, it's getting loose. It's just like if you're going to go play basketball with your friends or volleyball or any of that stuff. You just get loose a little bit, get acquainted with the instrument again, and try to clear your brain out a little bit. We're going to talk now about tuning the instrument. The basic tuning of the instrument. This instrument, everybody says, well, the instrument's in E flat. It's tuned at the factory. No, not quite. I told you before that the length of the instrument determines the pitch or whether it's in tune or not. What we want to do is we want to play using an electronic tuner, unless you have perfect pitch, but we're going to use an electronic tuner in this case, and it's going to tell us whether the notes are in tune or not. If these two red lights that you see here are lighting up at the same time, then we know the note's in tune. If the one on the left lights up, the note's a little flat or a little low. If the one on the right lights up, we know it's a little high or a little sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a few notes and try it. I want to mention one thing. This is the mouthpiece cap. It goes on the reed this way. Its sole purpose is to protect the tip of the mouthpiece and the reed. Reeds have a tendency, they're very soft, and they have a tendency to grab onto shirts or music stands, and they can break and then you can't play it. I have made it a habit to always have the mouthpiece cap on if I am not playing. Even if I'm resting for 8 or 10 or 12 measures, I will keep it on. When I'm ready to take it off, I take it off and I either put it on my music stand or if I'm standing up in my back pocket. For me, it's become kind of one of my pet peeves, but I've never broken a reed because of it. And in concert situations, that's very important. Even for you in band, reeds are very expensive. You don't want to break them all the time. When you get one that works, you want to keep it for a while. They will last for quite a while. So we do the same thing we did with the ligature. We'll put it on the side and just roll it over the top this way. Now, in the case that the light on the left lights up and it's telling me that I'm low or that I'm flat, what I will have to do is push my mouthpiece in. If only the light on the right side lights up, it's telling me I'm sharp or I am high, so therefore I will have to pull my mouthpiece out. We're talking very small amounts of distance. I don't mean pull your mouthpiece out and have it go out 3/4 of an inch. We're talking 1 turn or 2 turns with your wrist, either pushing or pulling. Now, if your cork is very worn and your mouthpiece can move quite a bit, that doesn't work. But this is a brand new cork. It takes me a second to push it in because, as you saw, this is a brand new instrument, much like yours probably. So it may take a little more effort, especially if you're already in quite a ways. But try not to force anything. Don't push with your hands. Don't bend anything. Remember, this is the pressure point here, and I just put my fingers there, and hopefully that'll work. I'm going to play a G and see what happens. As you saw that time, both lights went off, but the right one went off for a little while, so I had only the left. It's telling me that my instrument might be a little bit flat. So what I'm going to do is, if it's flat, remember, I have to push my mouthpiece in a little further. So I'm going to push it in 1 turn or so and see if I get it any closer. Take a breath, hand position, make sure your back is straight, all of those things. And there you saw that we have both lights going, so our instrument is basically in tune. So let's recap. We've learned the other 5 notes of the scale, and we've learned some important techniques about playing the saxophone. We've learned about tonguing, short and long. We've learned about support. We've reviewed all the things about correct posture and breathing and your finger positions and all the important things that make playing the saxophone easy. We talked about vibrato. We've talked about, I think, everything that makes it easier to play the saxophone. If you just follow those simple rules and these little simple things that I've given you, you will find that playing the saxophone is an easy thing. It's a wonderful thing. Remember one thing too, music is your vehicle for self-expression. It is not your vehicle to try to express yourself in a way that somebody else wants you to express yourself. We all sound different on a saxophone. We're supposed to sound different. Go after your own sound. Find the music that you like to play. Make it fun for yourself. No, don't think that you always have to play just what's written there. If you hear things in your head, play them. If you like what's on the radio, learn it. This universe of music is open to all of us. I started exactly the same way you did. Got my first instrument, and I didn't know anything. I didn't even know how to take it out of the case, and we didn't have videos like this then. Fortunately, I had a wonderful band teacher who taught me everything, from how to put my mouthpiece back the right side up on the saxophone, to all the notes, and how to read music, and how to play what was written and what wasn't written. And he let me have the room to express myself. And because of him, I've gone on to travel the world. I've played on thousands of records. I have my own record out on the street. I've done a lot of wonderful things, and it's all because of this. If you take care of this and you love it and you do it, it will take care of you, and it will love you back, and it will show you things that you never thought possible. So have as much fun as you can. Do the right thing. Always remember to breathe, say ah, and have a good time. We'll see you again soon.